Alright guys, here we go. 13. Let's talk about this one more time. 13, okay, is alright, 13, we are going to add and subtract. What is that called when we add and subtract? Which one? Translation. Okay? So we're going to translate. Okay? And then if it was 4 and negative 1, okay, then what is it translating to? If the x is plus 5, then it's 4 plus 5, which is
9.
Okay? If it's negative 1, then it's negative 1 minus 4.
Negative 5.
Does that make sense? No. Ooh. No? Huh?
They said no.
No? Still don't get it? We're taking this number right here to y. We're doing what it tells us to do, subtracting 4 from it. So we're going to take negative 1 minus 4, and we get negative 5.
Oh.
Better? Cynthia? Better? Dakota?
No, I don't even get how you get 5 and 2 out of x and 1.
Okay. We don't get how we get 5 and 2?
There's only 2.
We're not on that one. That's 18. Okay, we are on 13. We're on 13. Okay? The book gives us 4 and negative 1. The book is telling us that x is plus 5. So we're adding 5 to 4. 5 plus 4 is? 9. Then they're telling us that we get y minus 4. So we take the y, which is negative 1. And we take negative 1 minus 4, which is?
Negative 5.
Boom. And this is called translation. Okay? Anytime we're adding or subtracting, it's translating. Better? Skylar? Chayton? Jonathan? Good? Lamont? Reese? Alright, moving on. The next one, 14. What they want you to do is just make one of them negative. What happens when one of them becomes the opposite? So think, if one is becoming opposite, it's like looking in the mirror. What happens when you look in the mirror?
You see yourself.
You see yourself. What's it called?
Reflection.
There you go. Reflection. When one of them becomes opposite, it's a reflection. Okay? Now, which way is it reflecting? Since it's negative x,
Across the y-axis.
across the y. It's kind of weird, right? Because if it's a negative x, it's across the y. If it's a negative y, it's across the x. Okay? So you kind of have to remember that it's a little bit backwards, okay? Alright, so that means it's a reflection across the y, the y-axis. Okay? So if they gave us, oops, I wasn't supposed to do that. But if they gave us that 3 and 2, then what's the new point? The new point would be
Negative 3, 2.
yeah. So the x becomes negative, and the y is the same. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. This will definitely be on that state test, I guarantee you. So I don't know if you can remember it all, but we're trying to make it to where you can remember it. Okay? Next. What's it called when we're multiplying? When we multiply an x or a y. And in dilation, you always have to multiply both of them by the same number. So dilation, you're dilating both of them. Oh, I just told you what it's called. What's it called? Dilation. Okay? So this is dilation. Okay? Dilation just means you're making it bigger or making it smaller. So if we're multiplying, like If I multiply the amount of money that's in your pocket by 5, right, I'm going to make it bigger. Does that make sense? And if I take the amount of money in your pocket and I multiply it by a half, is that going to be bigger? Right? If you have 20 bucks and I turn it into 10, that's half, right? I multiplied it by a half. What's half of 20? 10. I give it back to you. Are you happy? No, because that was smaller, right? If I turned it into 100, you'd probably be happy, right? Because that's bigger. So when you multiply by a fraction, right? But this is a fraction, but it's a fraction bigger than 1. So this will still get bigger. Does that make sense? Okay? If you multiply by a fraction smaller than 1, then it's going to get smaller. Okay? So what's 1.5 times negative 1? Negative 1.5, right? Sounds harder than it is. But it's just... But what's 1.5 times 4? But think about this. What's 1 times 4?
4.
What's half of 4?
2.
So what's 1.5 times 4? Right? 4 and 2 is 6. Right? So you can think of that. You can think of fractions being that easy, okay? You don't, or you can use your calculator. Calculator's totally legal on the state test, so it's legal on this test. But you can think about it as in terms of, 1.5. 1/4 is 4. Half of 4 is 2. Okay? Alright, the next one. What's this called when we go from xy and make it a negative yx? So what's it called when they rotate like that? When I take my x and I rotate it, what's that called? Rotation. See how I'm trying to make this fit in your head so you can always remember it? If you think about it being a mirror, like something's the opposite, it's reflection. But when it rotates, okay, rotate is rotation. Okay? So we should know that this is rotation. Okay? And if that's rotation, that's fine. Okay, we know it. Which way is it rotating? That's the hard part. But you can always, if you want, graph it and then see, is it going up or is it going down? If it's going up, that's counterclockwise, right? If it's going down, it's clockwise. Okay? If you have it in your notes, it's going to say, when the y is negative, it's counterclockwise. Okay? But you can always graph it if you need to. But what would the new point be? If the old point was negative 7 and 6, what's the new point? So remember, the y, right, is becoming the x and it's becoming opposite. So what's the y here? So the y is 6. So the new y would be the 7, right? But the new x is the old y. See how it's flipping? So what I could do right away is just go 6, negative 7. Is that enough? Is that right? Just to rotate them? No. What do I have to do? Yes, make that 6 negative. Okay? That has to be opposite. So now it's going to be negative 6, negative 7. Does that make sense? I know that's the hardest one. Believe me. Rotation's the hardest one. Not getting it? Okay. So let's talk about another one real quick. What if it was negative 2, negative 5? That's going to be hard. But I want to rotate it. The same rotation. Negative yx. Okay? So if I just flip these, right, then what would I have? I would negative 5, negative 2. Good. But I have to make this opposite, right? So how do I make that opposite? In this case, I just put a line in, right? Now notice how this line I made it a plus, but in this line I made it a minus. You just add a line in. Whether it's going to be vertical or horizontal, right? Is whether it's negative or positive to start with. Is that better?
Yeah.
Dakota? Chayton? Still kind of Skylar? Dakota?
I'm done.
Still struggling? Skylar? Yeah, you. Talking to you. Struggling?
Yeah, mostly just like
Alright.
coming in.
Dakota, take a look. Lamont? Struggling? You don't get it either?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Reese?
My aunt was pissed.
Not really?
No, I get it.
You do? Okay. Alright, Dakota, look at this. If I got 8 and 2, and I want to reflect them, okay? That means I'm gonna rotate those. Not reflect. I want to rotate them, right? So what's going to be over here? Just to rotate them, what would they be? Yeah. So which number goes first?
Oh, my rotating answer?
Yeah.
Oh, 2 and 8.
2 and 8. Guys, gotta be quiet. I'm trying to teach. Sancha, are you teaching him?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, is that good enough to stop there? Just by rotating them? Or do I need to make one of them negative?
You need to make one of them negative.
Which one?
Y.
Okay.
I didn't write down all these. There's 6.
But the X.
Yes, good. Yeah, so you're getting it. So this one, right? That's it. Good? Better?
I'm good. I finished.
Oh, I thought you meant you're done, you're quitting, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, how's my film? Is it still on?
Yeah, same.
Okay. Alright, 17. Let's do these last two real quick. What's this called when I add or subtract?
Huh?
What's that called?
Now I think it's just like.
Add or subtract.
Because there.
Come on, people. When I add or subtract.
Translation.
That's it. Translation. Okay, next. I'm adding or taking 1 away from the x. So it's 1 minus 1. 0. Okay, what's the y plus 1? So negative 2 plus 1.
Negative 3. Negative.
Negative 2 plus 1? Negative 1. Right? Because when they're different, we're going to take the difference. Right? Keep the sign of the greater number. Okay? Good. This one. They both became negative. What does that mean? They both became negative.
100
Huh?
100 rotation?
Yes. 180 degree rotation. Can somebody give me a harder way of doing it? 180 degree rotation is what we're looking for. Okay?
It's not like two.
But we could have also reflected it twice, right? Once against the y, once against the x, and once against the x, then against the y. Does that make sense? Okay? Alright, so what does that mean? What's my answer going to be? Chayton, what's that answer going to be? If I'm making the x and then the y is negative, and the first x is 5, then the second x is 2, what's my new x and y? If I'm making the x and the y negative, my first x is y, and then, or my first x is 5 and my y is 2, then what do I make these?
Negative 5 and negative 2?
Yes. Okay? Alright, that's homework 4.1.
What?